Rich, today we're sitting down with Matt Shoup. He's an entrepreneur, he's an author, and he's here to inspire entrepreneurs.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the conversation that included a couple of awakenings that he had in his life and why his company exists, how they're going about enhancing the community, inspiring leaders, and impacting lives. I personally found it inspirational.
Yeah, Rich, Matt is an entrepreneur who is not just the CEO of his business. He's elevated himself to another level of leadership, level 7 leadership, where he now presides over 6 businesses as the CEO and chairperson of them. And the tricks and lessons that we've learned from him on how to move to that level of leadership are really important for entrepreneurs to hear. Here's Matt Shoup. Hey entrepreneurs, are you looking to take your business to the next level? I'm sure you are. Listen up. The Entrepreneurs United Empowerment Experience is coming to Austin, Texas on October 2nd to the 4th, and you do not want to miss it. At this exclusive event, limited to just 50 entrepreneurs, you'll have the opportunity to connect with other like-minded business owners and CEOs, learn from industry experts, and enjoy unique experiences that you will not find anywhere else. The Entrepreneurs United Experience will leave you feeling inspired, energized, and ready to take on whatever opportunities and challenges come your way. So mark your calendars now for October 2nd to the 4th, and join us at the Omni Barton Creek Resort in Austin, Texas. You will not regret it. Visit entrepreneursunited.us to learn more and secure your spot today. Matt, welcome to the Entrepreneurs United podcast.
Hey, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, excited to have a serial entrepreneur, 2-time author in the contracting industry as well, which Rich and I have a little bit of experience with. So I'm excited to talk about that. And you're about to launch your new podcast, Gentle Art of Leadership. So excited to hear a little bit more about that. Before we start, why are you doing what you're doing? Because you're doing a lot of really good things for entrepreneurs. What is your why?
To inspire and ignite business owners and business leaders to own and live an excellent story, which is also your life and it's also your business. I'm a walking example of making a decision to change. I had my circumstances and my life that was going on, and I decided I wanted to change things that I didn't like. And at the end of the day, like, we have one story to live and to leave, and why not be an excellent one? So that's what I wake up to do every day. And I get to combine all of my life's passions into business, which is really cool. So I don't work. Now, my wife will say I'm working right now, but I'm not working right now.
Yeah.
And that's what I do every day. I get up, I have Spanish coffee with people, hang out with awesome entrepreneurs, and dig into their story and help make their story better so that they can go do the same for other people in whatever it is that they do. But I'm in the business space a lot with a lot of business people.
Yeah, I love that. And certainly where success is found, I have found where success is found is the Venn diagram, right? What are you most passionate about? What can you be
Yeah.
the best in the world at, and what drives your economic engine? And that sweet
Yes.
spot there is where success is. And that's where it seems like you live reading on this first question.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm slapping myself, pinching myself because I fell in love with Spain in college 22, 23 years ago. Went over to study abroad, do a semester abroad, fell in love with it. And I go back all the time. I love sharing the culture back and forth between America and Spain. And we took our team there last March, our leadership team within the company, and I paid for that. But the vision was eventually I want to take people over on leadership experiences and retreats. So we're doing one in September, taking a group of men on part of the Camino de Santiago. It's the St. James Pilgrimage Trail. We're going to hike 6 days, 72 miles. But the purpose of that trip, so part of the Gentle Art of Leadership, there's a part I teach where busy, we're overwhelmed, we need to unplug and disconnect. And it's hard to do.
Yeah.
And then recenter and refocus. Everybody talks about vision and focus. You can't do that if you're still plugged in everywhere. So we're just taking a group of guys, and it was funny. The payment deadline was up, and the payments were coming in, and I'm just like talking to my CFO. What? We're getting paid to do this? It's amazing. And it was literally a vision 3-4 years ago that we really took seriously. We ran a trial run, and here we are. And then we're doing another one in May called the Ultimate Immersion Experience. So yeah, it's crazy. It's wild. I love it. It's what
Yeah.
It's what I'm called to do, though.
Yeah. My sister and brother-in-law made that hike over in Spain and heard a lot of great things about it. Excited to hear a little bit more about that. But
Yeah.
I got to come back to something, Matt. You said that if I don't double click on this one, Rich will. So I'm going to try and beat him to the punch. You said, I made a decision to change things.
Yeah.
And you can't just make that statement and not have us come back and ask, oh, what's going on?
Mhm. Yeah.
What happened that led you to having to make a decision in the first place? And what exactly did you change?
So I break my story into, say, 10-year increments. I'd say 0 to 10 was bad foundation, bad soil. I grew up in New Jersey, northern New Jersey, and my memories of childhood were getting bullied and picked on and abused. And I was scared of the world. Everybody, every person, especially a little boy looking to understand what becoming a man is, they look for certainty, identity, passion, something that they see value in, right? What am I certain about? Do I know that I'm loved? Do I see that I have value? And kids want to have fun. But I was told to sit down and shut up. I was very creative. I got kicked out of things a lot just because I see things differently. And I was super brilliant, but I was an easy target. I was a buck-toothed, goofy looking, easy target. So I got physically beaten in school every day.
Mhm.
And growing up with that, that created some identity in me. But business for me at 10 years old, we moved to Colorado, asked my parents for $200 for a boombox. They said, figure out a way to make your own money. So I took the lawnmower and I just started knocking doors. Like that moment, I said, I want something and no one's going to give it to me. So this is an example. I didn't have what I wanted. I wanted something, and I'm either going to count on somebody else or I'm going to take action and change that circumstance. But that's how I found business, was by just going out knocking on doors, mowing lawns, made a couple $1,000s. And as that's continued into my 20s, launching M&D painting, there was a circumstance there where I was thrown out of a bank, was kicked out of a bank, and had nothing. I had 6 figures in debt and I needed to make some money pretty quick or we were going to be in trouble. Needed to change those circumstances. And I've realized that the mindset you have combined with the plan you make, the action you take, and the people and voices that you surround yourself with and let into your head, as well as your own voices, being considerate of those, that combination, that formula will create success as long as it's in a positive, empowering, forward driving, inspirational direction. So I know I threw a lot at you, a couple examples, but I, on paper, should be dead in prison or disappeared because that's what happened to everybody else in the environment I grew up in that was being told the same thing, that was experiencing the same thing. So how am I here at 42 with 6 companies talking to you guys on a podcast, right? And my friend Gian from New Jersey is dead. Then there's something there, right? I've unpacked that story, and obviously changing environments was important, but moved into Colorado, different environment, same stinking thinking, bad mindset, bad foundation. And I had to learn these things as I grew up and moved along in life.
So at 10, you had a bit of an awakening to entrepreneurialism, which is
Mhm.
nobody's going to give me money. I can go out and make money. I could just knock on doors and I could figure out how to get what I want in this life. And I'm using the word awakening. That was almost your first awakening to what entrepreneurialism is.
Yeah, it
What
was.
were
It
the
was.
other kind of awakening points for
Mhm.
you that you made significant pivots to be where you
Yeah.
are?
When you said awakening, it's almost like you spied into my life plan that I took. So I went through a process called a life plan. It's part of the Patterson process, and it breaks your life into these chapters. And chapter 0 to 10 was bad foundation, bad soil. And then what I called my awakening was at 20. So this introduction to business at 10, which you're referring to as an awakening, that totally was. It was opening my eyes to, hey, like there's, if you want something, you can go get something. And I grew up in an environment where there was a lot of victim speak, and the people I ran around with and spent time with, you never get ahead. We're going to be stuck here, this kind of thing. So I go, that's not true because I did this and I proved that's not true. But another awakening was right about 20 years old. I was introduced to a college painting company in college, my first year, freshman year of Colorado State University. That was my reintroduction back into business. But my faith journey, which was the biggest awakening I ever had in my life, was at 19 years old. I had spent the last roughly 12 months drinking, drugging, blacking out, passing out, getting lost, almost ODing, on the brink of death, lost in Vegas, all this. Found myself close to half dead in a field trying to get home on a New Year's Eve when I'm 19. And a Fort Collins police officer scooped me up, put me in the back of his police car in handcuffs. And at that point, he had two decisions. It was take me to the drunk tank. Have you guys ever been there? The drunk tank?
No.
No.
Come on. No? Okay. Good. I haven't either. And he said to me, he goes, you ever been to the drunk tank? And he was doing the police talk, right? I said, no, I'd prefer not to go there. He said, how drunk are you? I said, I'm pretty drunk. He goes, do you know where you live? Do you know how to get home? Yeah, just go that way. So I was not so drunk that I knew how to get myself home. So he had a long list of drunk college kids to pick up. And he took me to my home, took me out of the car and unhandcuffed me. And it really was police talk. He didn't quote a Bible verse. He wasn't intentionally, I don't think, wanting to share Jesus with me, but he showed me this love and this grace and this compassion when he had every right to punish me and condemn me and take me to jail, right? He had the authority, the control, the power to punish me. And he said, hey, I'm going to give you some space, some grace, and a break. And there's a lot of people that love you, and I'd hate to come scoop you up again and take you to the morgue instead of the drunk tank, something to that effect. And he says, Happy New Year, sends me on my way. And I wake up the next day, and I'll tell you that for years prior to that, I was having experiences with other Christians because I'm a Jesus follower. And after that New Year's Eve evening, 2 weeks later, I gave my life to Jesus. But leading up to that, there were so many experiences with people that misrepresented what that story is truly about. And I wanted nothing to do with it. So this awakening was that, look, just a cop doing his job on New Year's Eve when he could have just gotten annoyed, threw me in jail. He slowed down, took a minute, understood my story, and loved on me a little bit. That changed my eternity. And I don't know who he is. I've gone back and tried to find him. So that was a huge faith awakening. But also looking back 24 years later, I'm 42. I have the opportunity in business to do that. We get so busy, we got stuff going on, and at face value, it just looks like maybe this team member's not performing, but actually they're having a crisis. And we need to recognize that, slow down, stop, and say, hey, some of the best breakthroughs and awakenings I've seen within business is, hey, you okay? Can we step out, grab coffee real quick? Something's not clicking here. Are you okay? How can I help?
You have a very intriguing story, and with these couple of awakenings, and I'm sure you have others. It sounded like you said you used a Patterson process
Yeah,
to understand your own story.
yeah.
I haven't heard of that.
Yeah, I hadn't either. Kurt Richardson, who is the CEO of OtterBox, they're a phone case company. They've had a lot of success here. He's a huge contributor, philanthropist, and business guy in the Northern Colorado community. He's really plugged in with them. So I found that through him. Thanks, Kurt. Tom Patterson was a gentleman who was a process guy. He spent time in the Eastern and Western cultures doing business. And he noticed that Americans were really quick. Hey, point A, point B, have a lunch, make $1 million decision. Eastern cultures, they would just circle around something as simple as a box of paper clips, right? To bring it to the other extreme for 3 days and just get perspective. So he has this process where you literally remove yourself from your story and you have a facilitator that spends 2 days with you. You go through 17 exercises. I may be misspeaking a little bit. I'm not licensed or representing them. This is from what I've been told and remember. And you go through these exercises where you literally break your life down into chapters and moments and turning points, and you leave with your passions and your desires and your purpose. So when I say that I inspire or exist to ignite and inspire others to own and live their life, their story with excellence, that's from the life plan. And it was the best 5 grand, I think it was, that I ever spent in my life because that guides and it takes into account that I'm a Christ follower and that I'm a business guy and a husband and a father. It takes into account all the domains. So when this podcast gets presented to me at whatever time it is today on Thursday, does this fit and align with my purpose? Yes, it does. And there we go. So it's a cool process. I wish I had it earlier, and I am obviously pitching it right now.
Look at
Everybody
that.
should do one. And I loved it. Yeah. And then my wife did it. We actually, every team member that works for our holding company, which owns all the companies that we have here, after 1 year, we pay for their life plan. It's one of the benefits of
Oh,
working here.
very cool.
Yeah.
And I'd be remiss if I didn't check in on which college painting business were you part of?
So it started when I was introduced as Student Works Painting. It
Okay.
then, because a lot of these were conglomerates and one started and they melted. So Student Works Painting then became College Works Painting, but it was owned by National Services Group. So they're out of Santa Ana, California. And since then, they still have that brand. They started a commercial, so they have Empire Commercial Coatings. I'm sure those guys they all have other businesses as well. There's 4 general partners that are also involved in other businesses apart from that. But yeah, I was there 99 to '03 with those guys and here in Colorado.
Okay. John and I, our roots, we grew up and met each other, grew up in business, and we originally met each other in college pro painters.
Yeah, yeah, College Pro. So we were running around. College Pro guys were running around. So College Pro, Certa Pro, they're all part of that,
Yep.
conglomerate. And I remember that. So we used to compete against you guys. Those College Pro guys, they brush and roll stinks. And they were like, those
Yep.
Student Works, College Works, those guys suck. They spray everything.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
remember, and then we go duke it out at the bars. maybe.
As a matter of fact, CertaPro is my employer today, and I've been there for about 15 years.
Yeah. Are you a franchise of
I'm on the
CertaPro?
corporate side. I work in our leadership and development team and
Oh,
work with the team leaders. And the easy way to describe what I'm doing today is I lead leaders and I train trainers and I
yeah.
coach coaches.
Love it. Love it.
I've come to learn that after my wife has said multiple times, I don't know how to describe what you do and your title doesn't do it. And I was like, train trainers and coach coaches. Let's start there.
That's
Yeah.
perfect, though. And you love what you do, obviously. And when you get to be
Oh,
in that space, it's a happy life.
love what I do. I have said very similar to you. If I could find a different way to explore my life passion, I would. I have told the president and CEO of our company, who is actually our first podcast guest, if I could find a way to impact more people more deeply, more quickly, I will leave because that is what my life mission is, to
Yeah.
impact people in that way. And for 15 years, CertaPro has been the place to do it for me.
Yeah.
So cool to
And
have our college painting
yeah.
lineage here among the three of
Well,
us.
and don't get me reminiscing, because the before Jesus days, I mean, if you go back and ask some of those guys, I remember some knockdown, drag out, wild nights. This wasn't the company as a whole, but there was a small group of us. We made a bunch of money. I made over 100 grand in 4 years, spent way more than I made. And that led me to the debt. And we lived life. I did all the things that I wasn't supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, learned a lot about the business, learned a lot about life and where decisions take you, good ones and not good ones.
Yeah, there's no doubt, Matt, that experience at such a young age of running your own business taught all three of us, I'm sure, but hundreds of others, the good, bad, and ugly of entrepreneurism. How tough it is, how stressful it can be, how you
Hmm.
actually have to have money to make payroll. And then
Yeah.
to your point, the other side of it is how to live when you're making income of that nature at
Hmm.
such a young age, and probably made a lot of the same mistakes you made. I can remember, and definitely some wild nights that we won't talk about on this podcast. But that
Which is where
foundational.
Johnny Vegas originated. I just have to jump in. Got to pull that out.
You told me your nickname before. I asked, I said, can we use profanity on the show? You told me your nickname, and we want to keep the C. We want the clean. We don't want the E. We don't want this
That's
episode
right.
to have the E.
That's
This goes
right.
to a whole nother demographic, maybe.
That's
That's right.
exactly right.
No,
But I tell you
not
what,
for
it's so
kids.
foundational. It's so foundational. That development that we had, I think, has been the core of, even just look at Rich and I's connection. We met there and we've been best friends ever since because of those shared experiences that we had together that we now
Yeah.
can relive. And just even without really knowing you, we could connect immediately on those connections.
Yeah.
One thing that I find really interesting here, Matt, is I'm assuming your first business in your holding company was the painting business because
Yeah.
that was where you had relative experience, knowledge, and all that kind of stuff. But yet you now own 6 companies. And by the way, I'm in the process of writing a book. And one of the chapters
Awesome.
and principles of my book is how entrepreneurs need to move from CEO to chairperson. The E Myth Revisited calls this the level 7 leadership, where you
Yep.
rise above your business, not in your business.
Yeah.
You've done that. I need to really understand that process for you. At what point did you decide I'm going to be given the chairperson of this business to start a holding company to then diversify my interests? So I
Hmm.
operate at a level 7 leadership
Yeah.
versus just run a big painting company and grow it.
I love that you asked, because I listened to the episode with Jonathan Rivera. He
Okay.
was talking about that difference between CEO and chairperson to me. And I would agree with what Jonathan said. CEO, it's the visionary. I'm that. I got an idea, and I have a million ideas before breakfast, right? So M&D Painting was founded. I got fired. I needed to make money. I did not think I'd be here 20 years later sharing this story, at least at that moment back then. But as CEO, like I'm the visionary, I've got the ideas. I'm a launcher. So I can take an idea that I'm passionate about. I've got about 2 to 3 years max of just, I get in and implement it, because for me, I need to prove it myself before I can teach it to others. That's just how I operate. But then for me, it's hard to step out. So I would say with M&D Painting and now roofing, your home services business, I am out of the daily ops. I'm at the big leadership. I come in and train, speak, all of this content that the books I'm writing, that's for them. But we own a Jiu-Jitsu academy where I just launched that. I've now stepped out and I'm really focusing on developing Troy, who's my business partner, as a business owner. But then I'm deep down, literally in the weeds of the mattshoup.com brand and Gentle Art of Leadership. So I'm in all these different places and all these different businesses. But the biggest thing that I would say where somebody feels stuck is you have to let go of the control. Because a lot of us, I'm a control freak. Nobody can do it better than me. You have to let people fail. You have to give them some room and some space, clear directives and descriptions. Matt Dahlstrom wrote a book called Bloom, and he talks about role and rope. So the role is the job description, and you need to have trust and give them space to do that. And then we say, hey, here's your job, here's your money, go do it. I trust you. Hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? How's it going? And then you just take over and do it for them. You're sucking yourself back into the business and demoralizing them like crazy. And I still do that sometimes. So you've got to have trust. You need to let go of control. And the biggest thing is the hardest thing for me, and some may be able to relate, is sitting there and watching somebody fail or make the wrong decision and letting them make that decision and own that decision wherever it goes and just being quiet. And for me, the hardest place to do that was sales, because that's what I love, sales and marketing. The hardest thing to step away from is the thing you love the most. I step away from ops and accounting all day long because I hate it. So I never wanted to do it. I hate painting. I never did the painting. We were taught that in college, painting. So
Yeah.
I hope that helps, those
Yeah.
key points. Yeah.
It's a really good example. The three of us might be the worst painters in the world, but we all ran paint companies. It had nothing to do with painting. It had to do with
Yeah.
leadership and management, and which
Mhm.
Rich just train the trainers and
Yeah.
get people to do what you needed to do. So I got two keys out of that, and I just want to make sure that we haven't missed any. In order to move from CEO to chairperson of your companies, there's two things that I captured in that. One was give up control and trust. And
Yeah.
number two was allow mistakes and failure to happen and zip it.
Mhm.
Allow it to happen because that's how
Yeah.
people will learn. Did I miss anything else, or is there more you'd like to add to that list in terms of what propelled you to be able to make that transition?
Yeah, and listening, so I wouldn't have distinguished per se the difference between a CEO and a chairperson until I listened to Jonathan on the podcast, right? Does that CEO want to be? So I worked with a company, Scribe,
Yep.
and they helped me publish my book. So their new CEO, Javon JT McCormick, he sits in a desk in the middle of everything going on. When I was in Austin, he's there. Hey, what's up? Like in the middle of the mix. And then you've got maybe Jonathan who's sitting back more. He's the chairman. So there's no right or wrong. It's just how do you want it to be? What do you want it to be? And that builds and defines the culture. So don't feel like it has to be so hard focused just because you see how I do it or how you guys do it or how Jonathan or Javon does it. It doesn't need to be the way you do it.
So I want to check in on something in this idea of letting go of control.
Yeah.
And we've talked to multiple guests who have expressed something very similar to what you've said, where allowing people to make mistakes. For whatever reason in this conversation, it occurs to me that's still from a position of I know it all. That's still from a position of I know what good looks like. You don't. You're about to
Mhm.
have a mistake. I'm going to allow you to do that
Yep.
because I am still the authority. I do still know better. And as the great authority, I will allow you to create an error for your own learning lesson. And I imagine, while there may be some of that in your six companies, there are other times where you've let go of control and things have just blossomed in a way
Yes.
that you would never have guessed. That if you were the one in control, it never would have gone that. And there were ideas
Yeah.
and execution that happened that you didn't even know if it was a mistake or not. It just happened. And sure enough, it turned out to go well. Can you tell us about some
Yeah.
experiences like that where you let go of control? You didn't know if it was a mistake or not. You didn't even know what was going on. You allowed people to own their role in one of your companies, and it was a smashing success. Where if you were more involved, it may not have been.
So the typical, I'll let them make mistakes, right? It's that superiority, that complex. Well, I know, and I know they're making the wrong. And there are certain things when I do know, and I do know that's wrong, and we'll see, and it's okay. But then, yeah, there's been so many beautiful moments in the business where they say, Matt, GTFO, get the F out, because they know me. They know my leadership style, my personality style. And I'll share one. So I go to Spain every year. I just got back. I've been back 2 weeks from previously being in Spain, Portugal, Morocco with my daughter. We were there for almost 3 weeks. And we're in this transitional period with my brand and leadership program where our building here needed a massive renovation. Podcast studio. We have a free Spanish coffee bar for the community. And the place is just upside down before I go. And I'm like, what do I do? They said, Matt, go to Spain, give us your vision. And they covered the cameras up, like the security cameras. Because I want to see who's coming to jiu-jitsu today. We have security, who's there. And I'm like, why do the cameras not work? My wife's like, just shut up and enjoy Spain. And I leave. And I gave him the vision. And maybe I'll do a video if you want to cut it in. I'll send it to you. But I came back just blown away. They said STFU, shut the F up, GTFO, get the F out, go enjoy Spain. And we got this. And I literally step back in down to the meaning of the color and the proportionality of the colors. Blue is certainty, orange is fun, green is value, red is love. Those are the four main core values that we have, literally to the proportion on the triangle wall right below here, down to the peanut M&Ms and we have this thing called the leave your mark. It's a color swatch wall. Anybody that comes here picks their color swatch and they write the one sentence, phrase, verse, whatever that they want to leave with the world, that they want to be remembered for. And it's right behind me. That wasn't my idea. That's one of
That
the
is
most
cool.
beautiful things about the building. If I would have been here during that, it would have been here's what Matt wants to do wall.
That is excellent. Great example. In that, you mentioned a free Spanish coffee bar. I know on your LinkedIn, you're formerly a Spanish teacher yourself.
Yeah.
I know you started with a painting company of which are a lot of Latino Hispanic workers. And I'd love to know, what are the other ways that you have broken into provide experience for a workforce that has probably helped you in this time of some labor shortage. So one of the things is, it sounds like, free Spanish coffee bar. Come on
Yeah.
in. And that's not just gratuitous and philanthropic, I assume. That is, yes, we want to do that for the community, but also we'd like you to be aware of who we are, and we may have
Yeah.
employment to offer and so forth. But yes, we'd like to do that for the community. What are other things you're doing? Like the thing with put the swatch on the wall. Like, there are
Yeah.
little tips and tricks that I'm picking up from you that I'm sure our entrepreneurs are taking note of who are listening. What are
Yeah.
other things you do that create a community that may help you with labor shortage?
So many things to unpack because as you're sharing all that, I'm thinking community, I'm thinking company culture, I'm thinking breaking barriers between American and Latino workforce, and I'm thinking the reason behind why we're doing everything we're doing. So I'll try to sum that all up and share. So Cafe Sevilla, it's our Spanish coffee bar. If you go to cafesevillacoffeebar.com, it exists for two reasons. First is to show love to others by sharing Spanish coffee with them. I love Spanish coffee the way they drink it in Spain because I love Spain, love sharing the culture. When people come out, it's free. We invite them out. They get free coffee, hot chocolate, tea, whatever it is. We expect nothing. One person, one day, again, wasn't my idea, put some money in a little jar that I used to drink beer out of. I have this big, cool mug. I used to drink beer in Spain out of it. He threw $5 in it to figure out what to do with this. I go, In 2007, we started a scholarship at Colorado State University, an endowment. And I'm literally today with my wife going to send the 19th student to Spain through this endowment. So the second reason the coffee bar exists is to raise money for that scholarship. So there's an intention there. So if you come in, hey, what would you like? We're going to love on you, have fun, make you better. And then we'll take you back to jiu-jitsu and we'll choke you and wrestle you a little bit to make your life better. So the whole thing is, whether you're Cafe Sevilla, you're at jiu-jitsu, we're here to I'm taking my story and your story and our stories are coming together. We're going to make them better together, and you're going to leave better than you came. So we say, you hang out here long enough at our building, you're going to get better. Somebody said a great thing. It came to my book launch. His name's Samson. And he goes, every time I come over here, Matt seems to he goes, he'll choke you out. So he'll break you down and then he'll build you up and he'll give you some coffee and then send you on your way. And I just thought that was really a great leadership analogy. You have to break people down to build them up, and you need to pour into people. And that's what we do. So that creates company culture. It allows us to contribute to the community. M&D Painting exists not to paint houses. It's to enhance the community, inspire leaders, and impact lives. And
Matt,
we do that with this space here. And it's God's calling for me, right? At a deeper purpose. Those colors have a lot of significance and meaning, biblical meaning. But to somebody who just comes in who maybe doesn't know God, or they're figuring that out, they're like, wow, this is fun. There's something here about this space that's different, that makes me feel safe and welcome and loved and valued.
Matt, you had me almost booking my trip to come check this place out and have some Spanish coffee
Yeah,
until you
come on
started talking
out.
about choking me out.
Only
So
if you sign. Only if you sign the waiver.
Rich, have you ever done jiu-jitsu?
No, I did karate for a short time, but I've been punched in the eye
Yeah.
and bruised a rib, but I've never been choked out.
All right.
So I have to give
It's one
preface
of
to
those
that.
things that I'm not sure I could actually get myself to do, especially not with you, Matt. I'd have to start at a much beginner level.
You gotta let me explain. We're gonna scare the people. So because I got bullied a lot, my introduction to jujitsu was as a big meathead, had everything to prove, $1 million business guy gonna kick your ass. And I went into jujitsu and they're like, go roll with that little guy over there. What's the goal here? And my buddy Noah, who I'm still friends with, he knew what was about to happen to me. Just see what they're doing, just grab him by his pajamas, right? The gi looks like pajamas with a belt. Just take him to the ground, get on top, choke him, and he'll stop. You stop when they tap out. I'm like, that's easy. I'm 220 pounds. This guy's like 15, 100, 140 pounds. He kicked the shit out of me, like repeatedly. I'm just tapping and crying. And it was such a beautiful experience looking back because it's this journey. It starts with this first step. I don't know what I don't know. And he used all of my strength and leverage and strength and aggressiveness, my personality. He used it against me. So it was very eye-opening to leadership. And the gentle art of leadership is because jujitsu is the gentle art. If
Yeah.
I choke you, I will gently choke you slowly until you tap, and then I'll stop. And then we go have a beer, right? Or whatever we drink. That's the sport. But it looks really, when you hear it choke me out and you watch it, it's actually human chess. It's a very beautiful internal thinking process sport. And it's actually defended my family and I on 3 occasions where our lives were in danger outside on the street, and it works.
You're
So
looking
I
at
wouldn't
mixed
just choke
martial
you. I wouldn't
arts.
just choke you. Yeah. No, you
You're
got to
looking
sign the
at mixed
waiver.
martial arts like George St. Pierre did in the UFC, where he looked at it like it was a chess game. And he
It
was a
is. Yeah.
student of the game and he got a doctorate in the game. And there's a move and a counter move, and you know what the counter move is. So you're going to do this move, but they knew you were going to
Mhm.
do that because they knew you. Yeah, very cool.
And when you can apply that to business, a lot of the lessons in jujitsu, first, yeah, you're welcome to the building. If you're in the Denver area, 45 minutes north, come on up. We'll do the podcast here in the studio, jujitsu if you want, and you can at least watch it, and then we'll have a coffee. But yeah, the whole leadership program, Gentle Art of Leadership, talks about your story and that you're on this journey. Leadership, there's not an end to that, and you don't do it alone. You do it with other people, and there's a teacher, there's somebody that's pouring into you and you're learning, but then there's also having somebody on my podcast. I'm his mentor, so I'm having Rick Skadden on my podcast. I've been a mentor to him in the business professional leadership development space. He went from 4-time felon to full-time pastor. That guy's my pastor. Like, he'll speak at my funeral when I die.
Yeah.
And he'll be one of the ones that do. He mentors me. So there's this mutual mentorship where it's not this, like you said, I know it all and you're the guy getting it.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing. Yeah, I could go on and on for
No, that's
a lot
great.
of time.
Matt, the one piece I want to come back to that I really love, I'm a big proponent, I know Rich is as well, of having your own life plan. And
Mhm.
people subscribe to different programs. I subscribe to the one thing method, and I have a method that I followed to develop my plan and renew it on an annual basis, things like that. I think I've never heard of, and I really want to appreciate you on when you've had an employee been with your company for a year, you have
Yeah.
them do the Patterson process. I think that's an incredible gift you give your people that I've never really thought about doing that before with our businesses, but it's something that I find very intriguing. It's an incredible gift that, to your point, and what happened with you as well through your life journey, it can be life changing for people. That gift that
Yeah.
you give them. Great
Yeah.
job in doing that. That's the first
Thank
time I
you.
ever hear of somebody doing that.
I would encourage whatever the process is, if you fall in love with that process. But for me as a leader, I go, hey, the process is going to help you determine if your career here should be here or not.
Sure.
And it's going to align with it. So Rick knew coming to work with M&E, Rick Skadden, that he was going to be a pastor. So I'm literally hiking the Camino.
Hmm.
Back in 2019, it was the 4th day. I stopped at this little cabin in the middle of nowhere, and I knew he had finished his life plan. And I texted him, said, why do you exist? In one sentence. Because when you do that, and he
Mm.
texted me, and I said, so when are you leaving M&E?
Yeah. Get out.
Mm.
Not get out, dude. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
And we knew this, and you're here, and you know this. So now what does that look like? And it was awesome. And we've stayed great friends since. Whoever's done this says, well, why would you want somebody here? They say,
Yeah.
red is dead. If this position opportunity or whatever's in front of you, me going on the podcast, doesn't meet with my giftings, my talents, my desires, my purpose, and it's red in it, then I don't do it. You just say
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's
Love that.
beautiful. Yeah.
Love that. You have a new book that's out. I know it's been out for a while, but called Painted Baby, that I'm just very curious about. Your other book is called Become an Award-Winning Company, which is pretty, I
Yep.
understand what Become an Award-Winning Company would be about, but I'm not 100% sure that I understand what Painted Baby about. I love the fact you put paint in there just for the benefit of all three of our experiences.
Yeah.
But what is Painted Baby exactly? And why is it relevant to entrepreneurs?
Yeah. So Painted Baby speaks about the fact that painting a picture of perfection in life, leadership, business, it prevents true connection in life, leadership, business. So we are conditioned as humans, we go to look at social media to show up and be perfect, A plus, 5-star, shiny marketing brochure. We grew up, right? College painting days, 80s, 90s, feature, benefit, close, feature, benefit, close, A plus, 5-star. Here's why we're great. Our painting company was about to close the biggest deal of our life. I was about to close a $60,000, $70,000 deal years ago. It's a big job for me. And I'm pitching the shiny marketing brochure to a client. And he said, dude, this thing's crap, throws it across the room. I want to know about a time that you screwed up and what you did about it. I'd never been asked that before. So I shared with my customer, Bill, about the time. You'll appreciate this. You guys didn't spray, you college pro guys, but we had a sprayer on a job site. And this couldn't have happened to you because you rush and roll. And my painter's getting ready to pull the trigger to spray the house. Mom standing behind him, homeowner with 9-month-old baby. Boom, paint sprayer blows up. We painted a baby. So I'm in this sales engagement sharing with my customer about this massive screw up. And because he was forcing me to get the business and I just wanted to close the deal. As soon as I'm done, I go, holy cow, I just ruined my chances of ever doing business with this guy again. He says, Matt, you're the kind of guy that I want to do business with. Let's sign this thing. So by sharing imperfection and being real and human and vulnerable within a sales process, because you need a process, right?
Yeah.
You're going to build deeper, truer, richer connections and close more business. So I went out, and this isn't just a fun feel-good story. I tested the process and it raised our closing rate between 10 and 14%, depending on when and who was selling.
Love it.
And I wrote this book about connecting with clients through brave and vulnerable storytelling as a sales book for business. But I just had somebody come up to me in confidence and say, hey, I've been thinking about committing suicide and now I'm not, because this book was all about owning my imperfection, changing the story I'm telling and reframing things and then owning who I am, imperfections and all.
Yeah.
So that's what it's about. But yeah, when you see the cover, you're like, ooh, Painted Baby, what's that about? And
But Rich,
it intentionally didn't give it away. You got to read this and then dig in a little bit to find out.
The painters left a lid upside down and literally a rabbit, just like a movie, a rabbit got its feet in it and hopped up the new pavers of the customers going up to their door. So maybe there are a couple stories behind there, man.
For painters listening, I don't want to lead or direct your podcast off topic, but since we're on it, worst painting horror story, because other than Painted Baby, we all have had the wrong color show up to the house. Wrong color, right house. I did right color, wrong house. Did you guys ever do that?
Yes.
Did you ever show up to the wrong freaking house? Yeah.
Yes.
I wrote about that in here. What else was your painting nightmare, whether it was customer facing, between team members back in college for you guys?
I articulated mine. I
Power
the
wash the
white
siding.
powder off an entire, and it like zigzagged everywhere. The house was like, I didn't know what to do about it because you can't fix it. And then, so we basically ended up having to paint it was a disaster. I never thought I'd get out of it.
I had the same house that happened with. There were so many mistakes that happened on it, between using a 0-degree tip on a power washer and doing some etching in the wood siding, to paint drips on the roof, and the painters used black paint to touch it up. So there were black
glossy paint
splotches.
Yeah. Because that'll just fix it.
Exactly. And then cracking windows, doing glazing. That was actually all on the same house. When it was a training house, no less.
We could do a total separate episode, literally angled for any painter out there to share these stories. Yeah, I read a lot.
We absolutely should. Man, I got one final question for you. You obviously want to inspire entrepreneurs. What would be the one thing you would leave as a message to entrepreneurs listening to this that could inspire them as they move on their journey?
So my card on my color swatch right out there is that you have one story that you're in control of writing. So write it. You only get one. and be vulnerably you and own it. And if you think there's nobody else that's got your back right now, because I find that a lot in business, is that you don't have that excuse anymore, because I love you, I believe in you, you've got this, go get it.
Love it. Matt, thanks for joining us. People can get more at mattshoup.com. I know you have some free tools. Your books are on there. There's a lot of other resources on there. Thanks for joining us today on this podcast.
Thanks, guys.
Please stick around for a few more minutes while Rich and I break down this episode.
John, I couldn't agree with you more when you complimented Matt on, after a year in his business, he pays the $5,000 for people to go to this Patterson process. And what really stood out to me was that is in direct alignment with why his company exists. It supports enhancing the community, inspiring leaders, and impacting lives in his very own business. And he finds it to be worth the $5,000 if somebody's been there for a year. I think that is amazing. And like you, I've never heard of somebody doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think way too often we assume that an employee's life plan is to work for your business, and that's all that they should get as their salary and the opportunity to work for your business. The reality is they probably have goals and aspirations and dreams that go well beyond that. And way too often, I'd say 9 times out of 10, if not 9.9 times out of 10, the entrepreneur leader leading that person doesn't even know what that person aspires to accomplish in their life plan. So drawing that out of them gives the entrepreneur leader such a great resource to help that person achieve their goals and dreams. And that may mean not in their business. And that's okay, because guess what? More people are going to be attracted to you in your business if you help people get what they really want. So yeah, I think it's phenomenal that he does. It's certainly something I've been thinking about this whole conversation, going, okay, how can that be implemented within businesses that we have? Because I know for me, Rich, I always had goals and aspirations of what I wanted to accomplish, but it wasn't until my sabbatical in 2019 when I really took the time to go, what am I doing? What is my passion? Like, how do I find my purpose here? That I really created my life plan. And Matt talked about, if it doesn't fit something in my life plan, I'm just not doing it anymore. So it really gives you clear direction and purpose. And I think if you're an entrepreneur listening to this and you don't have a life plan for yourself, go figure it out. I don't care if it's a Patterson process or the one thing life plan or some other model. It doesn't really matter. Know what you're trying to accomplish in the next 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, 3 years. Today will help give you direction.
I found Matt's demeanor just to be it was almost comforting and calming just to hear about the things that he's doing. And it wasn't just how he used his voice. I think there's something to that clarity on his life plan, that he was very clear where his strengths are, where they are not, where he plays, where he doesn't, what he's about and what he's not. And it was just this almost quiet confidence in him that was assuring that you were getting the real deal, and he wasn't going to play a best foot forward game. And it even comes back around to this book that he had where he talked about painting perfection that reduces connection. And it was interesting, tying back into the podcast, when I asked him and challenged the idea of letting people make mistakes, that ties in with not worrying about perfection, that there's more connection in allowing things to unfold than it is over scripting things sometimes.
Rich, as a leader, I didn't figure that one out till really recently, that not being perfect is okay. And being more vulnerable is okay. And maybe that's because I had a massive failure and I had no choice but to be vulnerable and say I failed. And so now I have to be vulnerable. But what I've learned is exactly what he said. We grew up to have to sell the features and benefits and how great we are. And here's the 5 stars and here's all our positive references. And we're perfect at everything we do when we really weren't. And nobody's perfect. And none of the leaders listening to this episode are perfect. You and I aren't perfect. Even our mentors aren't perfect. And having that opportunity to be real, and we talked about this in one of our previous conversations, being transparent, being real, being vulnerable will earn you more trust and more relationships, because no one's buying perfection. No one buys it anymore. It's just, they don't believe you. you're more fake if you try and be perfect. And that's a true lesson, I think, for all entrepreneurs to really try and grab from this conversation is be authentic. It is what it is. If you make a mistake, own up to it. If you fail at something, fail, own up to it. Learn, have introspection, but be open and be authentic.
The worst case scenario is they do believe you,
Yeah.
that then they don't believe in themselves because they aren't as perfect as what you claim to be, and they believe you are, which shuts down opportunities to work with people, to coach them, to lead them, because you can't really truly see where you can help as a leader and as an entrepreneur unless you see where there may be some need or some deficiency or some discomfort. So the worst, and I agree with you. Generally, people aren't buying it, the perfectionism.
Yeah.
But it's even worse if they do,
Yeah.
because then you're not getting the real person who's working with you, just like they're not getting it from you.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. There's one strategy that I use frequently too, in the lines of imperfection, which is you're best to prepare for somebody that things aren't going to be perfect. Because then when they're not perfect, they're like, oh, yeah, John told me it wasn't going to be perfect, because nothing ever is. When we start some of our projects, Rich, a lot of times with our customers, we say, look, something's going to go wrong here. We're going to 1,000 sites. Something's going to happen. We're not sure what it is yet, but we just want to prepare you for the fact that something's going to happen. And when it does, feel free to give us a call and know here's how we're going to handle situations where things don't go as planned. They're like, wow. And then when something happens, they're like, yeah, remember when you said something's going to happen? It just happened. And they're cool with it because they understand, they're prepared for it. They're mentally open to the fact that things aren't going to be perfect. So really love that. And I think the other part, Rich, that I'd be remiss if we didn't talk about is Matt is really the chairperson of his companies. He's still the acting CEO of his companies as well. And that may be an opportunity for him to raise out of those businesses and have a CEO come and run those businesses for him. But he really is the chairperson of his businesses. He's moved from more of the operational role in running the business to more of an oversight level. And there's two keys that he articulated I think are really important. One of them is the speed of trust. And the other one was allowing mistakes and failure to happen and be okay with it and let people learn through it. So I think that those are two really big keys. There are many more keys, but those are two really important keys we discussed with Matt.
Yeah, and I want to correct, as you were saying that, it makes me want to correct my challenge with Matt on the kind of arrogance of allow people to make mistakes because I know better. Yes, that's one angle. I think another angle is allow people to make mistakes that you don't know if it's going to be a mistake or not. So don't jump in and try to over perfect it.
Yeah.
Allow it to unfold. And if it happens to be a mistake, that's okay. So I think there are those two angles on allowing mistakes, is releasing control of jumping in and having to do all the problem solving and fully understand and connect all the dots, just letting things happen. And sure enough, what you didn't know if it was going to be a mistake or not, some of those turn out, and some of those turn out to be the best learning lessons because they were in fact mistakes.
Yeah. And Rich, I'll even add on to everything you just talked about. Entrepreneurs have this sometimes feeling no one can do it like they can. No one can sell as well as I can, operate as well as I can, whatever. When they realize that the best person to run their business is not them, that's when things change. That's when you open your mind to, I don't know it all, so I don't even know if that's a mistake or not. And as soon as I let go my own personal career of saying, I may not be the best person to run this, maybe that person is, the business exploded. And sometimes we are the restrainer to our own businesses. So let go. You may not be the best person to run your business. Allow your people to flourish and grow.